Hello friends, I Professor Bhavik Kumar M. Kataria welcomes you into the video series of operating system, and we are discussing unit number 1, that is introduction. Till today we have discussed 4 different sessions on introduction to operating system. Today it is our last session, that is types of operating system. By clicking I button on top right corner, you can watch our previous session on hardware architecture and system calls. So let's start today's session, that is types of operating system. If we will look about the types of OS, so various types of operating system like first, that is earlier system, second one batch operating system, third one spooling, fourth one multi-programming system, fifth one multitasking operating system, and then after last one is multi-processing operating system. Another few operating systems like currently in market look like network operating system, distributed operating system, real-time operating system. So you are using this type of operating system currently in real-time use. Look like whenever you will go to the money withdraw at ATM machine. So you are using the operating system which is working on ATM machine. So this type of operating system currently are in use. So we will not discuss more about this type of operating system. So we will discuss number of operating systems which are in syllabus and currently you are not using this operating system. So let's start with the our first operating system, that is earlier system. During the starting of computer, there was a simple computer was in a very large size up to the entire room. So on those days, it this operating system is known as an earlier system. So basically there was a simple processor and common memory. If you will look inside the top figure, so here that is a common memory which is carrying operating system and user program both. Whatever the systems currently you are using, so you are using two types of memory, primary memory and secondary memory. But during the earlier days when computer system arrives into the market, so that was a common memory for everything. Another thing, that is input and output device, and whenever input is going to be produced, so input was produced as an entire job. Look like whenever currently you are running a program, so after writing a line of code, whenever you will run the program, so you are entering some values at a runtime. But this thing was not possible in earlier days. Whatever the input you want to assign, you have to assign all of the inputs in a single job. So you cannot assign anything at a runtime. So that was a simple earlier system. Punch card and magnetic tape was used on those days to producing the input. Magnetic tape is look like in earlier days there was a tape recorders. So in our childhood we have used this type of tape recorders and people called it cassettes. So there was a magnetic tape. So this type of magnetic tapes are used in earlier system. But whenever after if my students is listening to me, so you actually born into the era of CDs and DVDs. So you are not able to imagine the magnetic tape which was used in tape recorders. So if you will make a Google search and if you will find the older cassettes, so you will be able to look the magnetic tape at there. Another thing that was used, that is a punch card. So punch card is look like a piece of paper, and whenever currently you are attempting the competitive exam, so you are looking the OMR sheet. So this type of round circles was there in punch card as a whole. Whenever light rays is passing away out of this hole, so it will consider as an empty hole. and whenever there is a closed hole, so light rays will not be able to pass that hole. So it will be considered as a binary like zeros and ones. So this thing was a simple formula as a input and output. Then after next system is arrived, that is batch operating system. Why there is need to implement a batch operating system? Because to input and getting the output single job, it will take a more time to load and unload the single job. So CPU was remain busy into the loading and unloading purpose rather than processing. So that's why the thinking is here. If you will look about the below side figure, so there is job number 1, 2 and up to the job number n. Various job is collecting by the operator, and after collecting the various job, operator will make a various different batch. Look like some of the task of MS Office, like one work of Microsoft Word, one work of Excel, and one work of presentation PowerPoint slides will be considered as a single batch. Like some another example look like where media player is required, like you are playing a movie or you are playing a song. So it should be given into the second batch. So this type of work which is under the same criteria will be placed into the single batch, and entire batch is going to be loaded. What is the advantage of this purpose? Whenever process is in execution, so it will require some input output device or other type of resources. So whenever job are same, so it will require same number of resources. So it is easy to occupy number of resources, and again it is easy to extract the number of resources. So it will save few times during the processing. So in batch operating system, just little bit changes inside the input and output system. Entire structure of earlier system was remain same. Then after new operating system is arrived, that is spooling. It is known as a simultaneous peripheral operations online. So what kind of change is here? So if you will look here, there is a two type of memory. Primary memory is a main memory and another one is a secondary memory for the storage purpose. So that is the main aim behind to implement a spooling. Because in earlier days, earlier system and batch system, there was a common memory. So it is difficult to use the entire memory for the common purpose. Because in earlier days, CPU was in communication directly with the IO devices. Input devices are loading everything into the system. So at that time, CPU was remain busy to get input. Same thing after processing, CPU was busy to give the or to produce the output to the user. Get it? Or output devices. So input and output devices are directly communicating with the CPU in earlier case. But right now, due to the implementation of secondary memory, input devices and output devices are communicating with the secondary memory, and CPU is getting a more time for the processing. So some of the time of load and unload is saved from the CPU, and whenever CPU is processing some process, so during this time input devices are loading data inside the secondary memory, and output devices are unloading some data from the secondary memory. So it means here we are able to make our process somewhere fast as compared to earlier system. Now next operating system, that is multi-programming and multitasking, because whatever the earlier spooling system was there, that was a uni-programming. Here we are discussing multi-programming operating system, and another one is a multitasking. So in most of the cases, students are getting confusion between the multi-programming and multitasking. But don't worry guys, today I will make the clear difference between multi-programming and multitasking. If you will look inside the image, so you will look like both are same. But what is the difference? Here we are able to load the multiple program inside the multi-programming, as well as we are able to load the multiple programs into the multitasking. But the change is that in both the type of operating system, at a time only one job is in running status, or at a time one process can execute, because we have a single processor. So keep in mind always during the operating system, single processor can execute single process at a time. Suppose you have a one CPU, so you can execute only one process at a time. Suppose you want to execute two process parallelly at the same time, so there is need to add one more CPU, and this thing is not possible here into the multi-programming and multitasking. So name is multi-programming, but at a time one program is in execution. Same thing, name is multitasking, but at a time only one task is in execution. So thing is that now again question in your mind, then what is the difference between multi-programming and multitasking? So here we are able to load the multiple jobs inside the multi-programming, and whenever job one is in execution, so in case of multi-programming we can't stop job one during the execution and we can start job two. This thing is not possible. Whereas in case of multitasking, for example, job one is in execution and some important job is arrived, like job 2 is arrived, and job 2 is more important as compared to job 1, so we can stop the job 1 and we can start job 2. Another thing look like a time sharing. If you will consider into the lecture, so after 45 minutes or 1 hour lecture is going to be changed, another faculty is arrived and teach to you one more subject. Same thing after completion of second lecture, third faculty will arrive and teach to you third subject. So same thing is happening into the multitasking. Every job is allocated with the some timing duration. Suppose presentation is allocated 2 minutes and some program is allocated again 2 minutes. Some songs are allocated 2 minutes. So for the 2 minutes presentation will get the CPU, next 2 minute program will get the CPU, next 2 minutes songs will get the CPU. So everyone is working on their turn basis. So which is not possible into the multi-programming. Suppose there are presentation is going on and there is next program is in queue. So before the completion of presentation, program cannot be started. So program have to wait till the completion of presentation, then and then program can start their execution. So that is the main key difference between multi-programming and multitasking. Hope you are understanding very well what is the key difference between multi-programming and multitasking. But at a time, only one thing is in execution, that you have to keep in your mind. Multitasking is also known as time sharing, fair share, and multi-programming with round robin. We will discuss round robin algorithm during the process management unit in detail, so you will be able to understand more easily what is the actual meaning of multitasking. Now, till there is a few limitation. What is the limitation? That is, at a time we can execute one program on one process only. Here we have discussed 2 minutes, but the timing was very much narrow, or a very much small amount of time, like into the 2 millisecond or 1 millisecond. That is the context switching between CPU. So whenever you are running your computer system normally, so you are not able to see that is the context switch of CPU. Meaning of context switch is, suppose CPU is allocated to presentation, and by stopping the presentation we are allocating CPU to the program. So that thing is known as a context switch of CPU. So let's see the next operating system, that is multiprocessor system or multiprocessing system. So till today, there was a limitation. At a time, we are able to execute only one process, but here we are adding more than one CPU. So here CPU 1 is here and CPU 2 is here. So we have a two central processing units. So at a time, we can execute two process. So this thing is known as a dual core operating system. Suppose we are adding two more CPU, we are running with the total 4 CPU. So this thing is known as a quad core operating system. Get it? So at a time we are able to execute 4 processes. So by increasing the strength of CPU, we can parallelly execute the number of process. And it is easy to add one more CPU rather than making the cost to implement one new system. Suppose we want to execute two processes at a time. So we will make a we will put a two different computer systems, so budget is again increase. So rather than implementing the entire computer system, we can just add one more CPU and increase our work. So that is the common fundamental regarding to the multiprocessor system. Hope you are understanding very well the types of operating system. In our next session, we will start unit number 2, that is process management, and we will start with the concept of process. So thanks for watching operating system. Thank you very much.